I was going to say, I'm going to go ahead and concentrate on presentation, but I'm very interactive. So at any point in time, raise your hand. We'll get you on the mic. Tim, if there's anything that you're kind of seeing in terms of like, hey, let's stop and talk about that, just jump in, kind of let me know. Awesome. Thank you.
Did you freeze? Or did I freeze? Did Alex freeze?
Alex froze.
Okay. So sometimes you have to do a check and say, did you freeze? And everybody would say, oh, I didn't freeze. Oh, Alex?
Looks like we've got a quick coffee break opportunity.
Yep. Well, okay, everybody. Well, Alex is kind of dealing with some odd technical difficulties. That's okay. We kind of roll with it for just a second. One thing that I think you'll like about Fabric is, if you're not familiar with what Fabric is, its ability to do all these different workloads, these different tasks from the Power BI workspace. Just amazing. Yep, I did, Joel. I posted the Chat GPT link. Yep.
And then Tim, I am back. I apologize.
Okay.
Teams has been crashing on me, so I'm switching to the web client.
Okay, there you go.
And then let's try again. Let me start sharing my screen.
And I'll keep an eye on chat.
Oh, fantastic.
I've had to do sessions on web client too.
Yeah.
Talk about why.
And let me make sure I can select the right screen.
You got it.
I may have to bounce around a little bit. All right.
First and
foremost, you can see a PowerPoint.
I can. Yes, we can.
Awesome. All right. Introduction, Alex Powers, Fabric Customer Advisory Team, located in St. Louis, Missouri. Professional background, Excel, Power BI, Azure. Am I the co-pilot? Am I the driver? I don't even know anymore. All this generative AI craze, it's just so much fun. Personal background, just so you don't think I'm a complete robot. Love cats, love pro wrestling, love data. Data to me is just the world's greatest Tetris puzzle. I absolutely love kind of thinking about nostalgic here. Nintendo NES. I was like, did I ever actually beat a game? They were always so difficult, but I absolutely love just the complexity that goes into simplicity. And I hope that that's kind of reflected in a lot of the things that I try and focus on as well in my solutions, of just like, how do I take something that's very complex and just make sure that anyone behind me can pick this up? So I'm always thinking about that next person in line. I want it to be as simple and straightforward as possible. Cool. So thinking about just different challenges, within the market, obviously a lot of legacy solutions. You're starting to think about just how do we scale? Everything is emitting data now. It's your watch, it's your car, it's this thing, it's your TV, whatever it may be. Everything is just generating more and more data. So especially as we look at we don't have enough resources within IT business, you need to step up. You need to start taking some of this on yourselves. And you're like, we've been doing this for years. Now you've just given us the keys. You've unlocked these things. It's amazing seeing all the Power BI folks who have kind of developed over time and just doing more and more incredible things just because of technology that's been just now at their fingertips. And of course, just how do we share information as well, just more broadly across the organization. Here's HR, here's maybe our manufacturing or our sales team. How do we start blending different data together and not duplicating it? So kind of getting away from those individual silos. And then just when we think about analytics, we're thinking about, doing more predictive things as opposed to, what happened in the past. How do we continue to do more and more real-time, advanced analytics, data science? Just there's so many cool things to think about here. Microsoft Fabric. So this is looking at kind of the experiences that existed, whether it be like Azure Data Factory or even like Azure Synapse Analytics, and just taking those experiences and bringing them closer to the business, or in this example here, unifying them all into a single platform just via the Microsoft Fabric software as a service. So whether it be data ingestion with Data Factory, engineering, data science, all these capabilities now just from the existing Power BI I'll kind of call it that shell experience. So you're out in the workspace, you're clicking new. Now you can build real time analytics out there. You can do cloud data warehousing. It's so much fun. Hope you look forward to the demos here too. So talking about the unified solution, it's really this foundation here, which is going to be that one lake. It's your data. It's stored in a open source format. We'll talk about that here in just a moment, but any engine can read from that data. So whether you need to do the ingestion, connect to it, whether you need to do the visualization with Power BI, kind of that business intelligence, just connect to that same data that's stored out in the lake. Maybe it's data science. Again, just reading that data that's stored out here. Any engine, you don't have to worry about changing the formats kind of as you go. It's so much fun here when we talk about OneLake, which is really kind of the OneDrive for your data. I always love these kind of clever marketing taglines, but hopefully it does look and feel just as if you're kind of navigating a OneDrive folder. So if you're used to OneDrive or SharePoint today for kind of your storage, and you're starting to think of, well, we've got thousands of Excel or text CSV files out here, it's just, it's being difficult to do analytics on top of them in terms of scale. Start looking at kind of the OneLake. This is provision for the entire tenant. So there's just one lake for your organization. From there, though, you can start doing that data sharing. So across different workspaces with different teams, kind of in that workspace folder. And then, of course, just OneLake is supported here by data discovery for Microsoft Information Protection labels. Maybe it's PBI scans, just some additional governance and compliance offerings down here within that. All right, because I want to get us to the demos. I'm trying to get us through the slides as well. I don't know about you, but the first time I landed out in Microsoft Fabric, or even kind of like the Power BI service, if that's where you're kind of exploring today, there's all these new cards and experiences. So the top left, again, I'm a Power BI person at heart. I'm used to reports, dashboards, maybe even data flows and data marts. I'm doing all that today. Not even worried about it. But these other things like real-time analytics, data activator, data engineering, data factory, with kind of the pipelines now, or even data science and warehousing. There's a lot here. Like, where do I begin? What do I need to start learning? It's going to take me 6, 12, 18 months before I can wrap my arms around all this. Let me know in the chat. Did you also maybe have like that overwhelming feeling of like, oh my gosh, where do I start? All these things I need to learn. Please just let me know. Am I in this alone? Are you also looking at this thing? Oh my gosh, I don't know where does it begin. We'd just love to hear it from the group. Awesome. So the things I want to start with today is just the foundational things that you're doing right now. So here's an end-to-end analytics scenario that any of us could get started with today. So whether it be getting our data, maybe it's from a database, maybe again, it's from those unstructured files like the text, CSV, Excel files that are kind of stored. We're ingesting it using kind of that Power Query authoring interface here with Dataflow Gen 2. At the very bottom, we'll come back to that. That'll just be how we can orchestrate and kind of set up some really awesome refreshing capabilities that we just haven't had yet, kind of on the Power BI side. And then enriching our data, so that's building our semantic logic, so creating relationships between tables, or even kind of those DAX calculation measures. So we'll be building a direct lake model, and at the very end, just delivering insights. So it's that business intelligence, building those Power BI reports. Everything here today should look familiar. You're doing this right now. If you're doing Power BI desktop, you're connecting the data, you're transforming it, you're enriching it. You're also doing kind of that data viz at the very end. All this today is your existing skill set, just now applied to Microsoft Fabric. So with that, I want to get us out of the PowerPoints because really it starts clicking whenever we're actually in the tool. So let me jump out there. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I'm going to share another screen here. Awesome. And then Tim, if I get confirmation that you can now see an empty workspace.
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Right now, out in a web browser, we're looking at just an empty workspace. All of this is things that you're doing today. We've talked about all those new Fabric items and experiences, and you're saying, well, I don't really see anything different. Like, what's changed here? All right, so a couple different things I want to focus on. One being the bottom left. It's your persona switcher. So right now I'm just working within the context of things that I do within Power BI. Maybe if I wanted to change this, maybe to kind of look at data engineering or even a data science, I can just flip over there. There's nothing fundamentally different. It's just your different authoring flow. But for me, I love sticking in Power BI. So the trick that I often love doing is just going to this new and then this more options. Awesome. So out here in this more options, it's all those cards that we were just talking about. So that data activator here at the top, engineering, data factory, science, all of the different experiences that we can now start creating here, or even like the Power BI here at the very bottom. So first thing I need to do is I need to store my data someplace. So for this, I'm gonna actually use a lakehouse for storage. So storing big data. I don't know about big data. Maybe I'm in the small to medium camp here. So I'll call this just my sales lakehouse. That's kind of the name. I'll press create. Awesome. So we've now created a lakehouse for storage. If you've not done this yet in the past, this would be like an Azure Data Lake Gen 2 storage container where you can just start loading structured or unstructured data just out for, wide scale kind of analytics. Here, I now have my watermarks on my card. So just kind of instructing me, here's where you can go to get started, whether it be like creating a Gen 2 data flow, pipeline, et cetera. But two important areas, tables and files. So I said that this was kind of like the OneDrive for your data. So like storage, we can create new subfolders. We can upload our files here. So I'm just gonna create one here for images and press create. I can now navigate to my images folder. Maybe I want to upload a couple different files here. I'll just select these then from my desktop. All my wrestling photos, because I told you I was a big fan every week, just enjoying. Awesome. Just like that, we've uploaded some files now out into our out into our lake house. I'm thinking about, incorporating these maybe into like a future project of mine, especially with maybe it's like image recognition, maybe it's like my Power BI reports. But just here with my lake house, nothing different than kind of what we're doing today with kind of a one lake, just with OneDrive. Cool. Files, unstructured, load them up here. Tables, this is where things get a little bit more interesting. So for this, I want to create some optimized tables because we talked about those different workloads, just being able to seamlessly read that data, whether I'm doing in real time, whether I'm doing business intelligence, whether I'm doing data science. I want to have these optimized tables. So for that, I'm going to go back to my workspace. I'm going to go to new. I'm going to go to that more options again. I actually want to create a Gen 2 data flow. Awesome. So here we've got Power Query just online. I can do my get data here at the very top. I can use the cards. So from this, I want to actually connect out to this kind of text CSV file. And then let me go ahead and copy this web address. Awesome. And I'll paste this in here now. Nothing different than what we're doing today. Split all the different columns here. Go and press create. If we need to do some additional transformations, concatenating maybe these columns together, just merging our data. Separator will have our space. We'll call this our full name column. That's okay. I really don't need all of this data to be stored out in the lake. Maybe it's just these first few columns. So do remove other columns. Again, this is the workflow that you're accustomed to right now. I'm not doing anything different. But one great capability here that we now have is being able to add our data to a destination. So up here on the ribbon, we can select add data destination, whether it be writing to a Azure SQL database, lakehouse, warehouse, or even a kind of a Kusto database. You can imagine the future, writing to like a SharePoint, maybe writing to like your OneDrive, writing to this location, the next location. Just let us know on the Fabric ideas of where we should kind of prioritize. Before this, I want to write out to my lakehouse. So I'm going to select that, press next. I'm going to select my workspace here, and then that sales lakehouse that we had just created. So I've got my dim customer table. full name. Oh, just telling me that the column name. So it's going to go and concatenate that for me here. Just put an underscore. And then two different methods. So first being a replace data in the destination. So maybe I want to just drop my table every day, delete every row, and then say the next time I refresh it, just go and add the new rows that have since changed. Or even like an append. So maybe if I had a large fact table where I'm saying, well, let's go out and find the results that occurred over the last 24 hours, the last 7 days. I want you to just go and add those to my massive table, that I'm just continuing to build up and up to kind of get a long-term analytics there. In my example, though, this customer table, I really just want to drop and kind of put the new results in every day. So I'm going to leave it as replace, press save settings. Awesome. And then one last thing here, which I'll talk about in just a moment. I'm just going to right click this and do enable staging. I'm going to go and disable this just for right now. We'll come back to that in just a moment though. Press publish. This will go ahead and kick off both the publishing of my Power Query logic and then also my underlying data flow in the data. So from here, getting a little spinny wheel, and then we'll see the refresh start. I'll kind of pause here for a moment. So we built a lake house. We started doing a kind of ETL logic here with our data flow. Any questions thus far? Or do you kind of feel like, hey, I got this.
Not about Fabric, not about Fabric. You're good.
All right.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Not specific to the data flow, but when you were showing like all of the other resources, if you're staying on the Power BI persona, is Azure Databricks going to be natively an option within Fabric, or is that still something that you have to take separately?
Yeah, so with respect to like Azure Databricks, there's some great kind of blogs and articles. I wouldn't anticipate it being a card out here because they have their own authoring kind of portal and interface.
Okay.
Primarily with Databricks, it's going to be where's the destination when we write that to. And then for that, you could just use that Lakehouse endpoint address.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And then that'll be right here. Kind of, whether it be a SQL endpoint or even kind of like the file storage.
Right.
Let's take them out here. Awesome. Great question though, Leslie. Oh, there we go. All right. Our data flow is completed. We now have a table out here in our lakehouse that has been optimized for those different analytical engines. If I click on this now, I see here just my DIM customer table that has been created. And then we'll just see a little sampling of the rows as well. Awesome. So tables in the lakehouse, these are those optimized for the different workload analytics. Files, kind of that section, just whether it be structured or unstructured data that you just want to kind of out here, just out in its raw format. And then you'll be able to kind of, share this with other people or even kind of creating shortcuts to different lake houses that are in different workspaces. Cool. So I'm going to delete this real quick. We've seen ETL from end to end, just bringing data into our lake house. But I really want to concentrate on more of a complete semantic model. So let me go ahead and delete this now. Awesome. And then we'll go back. I'm going to delete this data flow. Don't really need this one at the moment. If I refresh this page, hopefully I'll see those staging lake houses. Awesome. Data flow Gen 2. I'm just import my Power Query template here now. And then you may not see that window, but give it 1 second. Awesome. All right. So much larger project now. I configure my authentication. Cool. Got some raw tables. We've got some other data that I may just want to kind of copy. First, though, I want to kind of concentrate on merging some of my different product tables. So if I was to look at even kind of like the diagram view here, I want to merge my DIM product with kind of that product subcategory. So I'm going to select this table. I'm just going to do that merge queries as new. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and select that subcategory raw. Awesome. Did anyone see what just happened? It was amazing. Did anyone see it? You're like, Alex, what are you talking about? You just selected a table and a drop down. No, I'm saying up in the right-hand corner, this new schema detection. So instead of me scrolling through each table trying to find the right column, it was able to automatically suggest, hey, I found these matching columns for you. This is amazing. I love it. Dim product raw to subcategory raw, just select that option. Amazing, the most clean data ever here at the Contosa company. I'll press the enter match. Cool. We've now started to create this merge table. I'm gonna expand this column here at the very end. Just get our name and our product category key. And then I wanna do that one more time. So that merge queries, here on my new query, that product category, top right, again, this light bulb, I absolutely love it. Click on it now. It found all these matching columns. Again, I didn't have to scroll through, read, and try and find the right match. Automatic detection. So category key to category key, yeah. Subcategory to category, no, that's not it. Key to label, nope, that's not it either. I definitely think that this is probably the one. Awesome. Again, this clean data at Contoso. I'm running to LinkedIn after today and applying. It seems like the dream job. Product category key. I'll just go and get my name here. Cool. So we've been able to merge 3 different tables together. The important thing is going to be this light bulb, or I'm sorry, not this light bulb, but this lightning bolt here. So I want to call this out. This is leveraging Fabric Compute behind the scenes. Earlier when I talked about kind of that enable staging setting, this is on by default. And this is really important. I want to kind of call this out. In my example, I'm doing a transformation such as a merge or append that could be very expensive just in terms of time and processing needed. So what I want to actually do is I want to have this data staged into a lakehouse behind the scenes for me. After that, it's going to then load it into kind of a warehouse behind the scenes and do all these additional transformations for me just at scale. So this little lightning bolt here, just letting me know that I'm using that staging and that Fabric Compute to help increase the processing just here of my different tables.
Hey, Alex, I have a question, and I didn't think it would be suitable to ask at the end, but it's,
please.
Are the suggestions done based on the column names or based on the underlying data?
Yeah, so I believe that it's just looking at kind of the schema name. So it'd be the column name, kind of the detection there. So either an exact match or an approximate match.
Thanks.
Yep, awesome. Cool, so we've got this Fabric Compute heavy transformation here. Again, I can do this with my customer and my geography tables. So to do this, traditionally it would either be like a reference query. So if I do a reference, I get that lightning bolt, or I can do that as new. So dim customer raw, I'm going to create a new query, merge queries as new. So that would just be the same like a reference. Customer to geography, that amazing lightning bolt told me 1-to-1, so that kind of exact match here based on the schemas. And then Contoso, clean data up and down, just like the real world. Press OK. Awesome. So we now have our dim customer table. Expand my columns real quick. I really just need these state, province, region. There we go. Cool. Start grouping these here logically, just to kind of help me out again. I'm just thinking about for the next person in line here, data for staging. Cool. And then I have these other queries. This dim date table, it's pristine. It's exactly what I want. I don't really need to do any transformations for this. I actually want to turn this off by default. So I'm going to turn this default enable staging off. Kind of same here with the employee table, just as is. It's good enough for me. Disable, and then disable here for my store as well. So those, I don't need that extra Fabric Compute. So I'm just going to say kind of this data copy, move to new group, data copy, copy as is. Awesome. And then these last 2 tables here, I'm going to move these into just a new group, data transformation. Data using Fabric Compute for additional power. Awesome. So I've created a couple of different logical groups here just for the next person who maybe comes in, kind of takes over my work in the future, to kind of have an idea here Let me know in the chat if you're kind of doing something similar today, just state or kind of grouping your queries together, maybe providing some descriptions as well. So then that way you can kind of find your way through the forest kind of the next time you have to come out here. Awesome. So all these are done. I can go ahead and do publish, kind of publish now, configure each destination. I'm not a big fan of that. So I'm going to show you why here. I'm going to copy all this logic, and I'm going to try something different this time. I'm going to press X. I'm actually going to try it from my lake house. So I have my lake house. I remember those watermarks at the very top, and I can also do get data here at the very top. So maybe I start from a pipeline or a data flow here. I'm going to actually start from my lake house as my front door. I'm going to select a new data flow Gen 2. Now let's go ahead and paste these different queries here now. There they go. Awesome. Just needing a little bit of time to catch up. That's what I'm seeing. So I'll zoom in on this just in one moment here as the spinning wheel starts to load. But something magical happened. Again, you're saying, Alex, you're pulling these tricks on us. You're making us look left, then doing something to the right. Bottom right-hand corner here, data destination. If I hover above this, I have default destination. So because my front door was my lake house, it will say, oh, I'll just use that lake house as your default destination for each one of these queries. So instead of me having to go through and manually configure this for, the 9, 10 different tables that I have here, start from the place where you want to have it kind of be the destination. So maybe you're starting from your lake house, maybe you're starting from your warehouse. Using that as the entry point automatically configures. So if I go to the dim date table, dim product, there we go. Product destination configured, dim product here. And then I may need to look into kind of why these disabled weren't there, but it's fine. I can just go ahead and add these real quick. So if you do need to edit these or change them, you can kind of come back through. I'll just get these 3 here in just one moment. Do next. I just want to do a replace. So do save. So now you get to see the tedious part. Oh, you're like, I'll never do this ever again. I'm using defaults every time now. Awesome. So two pretty neat things I want to call out. Obviously, the AI detection for the schema matching here, destination for your data, whether it be replaced or append, and then also the default destinations. So add a couple of those tricks just to kind of your tool belt there. But let's go ahead and add this last one here. Then we'll do a run, and we'll expect to see all these now kind of out in our lake house. Save settings, done. Amazing. Press publish. You can also do publish later, which will basically just be publishing your logic, but it won't actually kick off a refresh afterwards. So if you're like, I'm not quite done, you can always come back to it. So kind of keep that in mind. Publish now, though, we'll do both the publishing of your logic and then also starting the refresh. So just kind of keep that in mind, especially if you have a long duration. Leslie, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if you're working on 2 separate tenants, are there any restrictions about using that data flow to send the results to the other tenant?
So that is such a great and interesting question. I think because of some of the staging stuff behind the scenes, there may be some slight issues, but I've not tested. I'll be happy to kind of take that one kind of after today. From the actual authentication workflow, though, if you have a credential that you can log in and see the other kind of source, I would expect it to work. Simply because, hey, you have access to it. There may be some tenant to tenant or other things that may kind of be in between that may prevent it. But I've not tested fully, but I absolutely love hearing that scenario. So if you don't mind, I'll get back to you.
I'm thinking about the scenario when you've got like a tenant that's customer facing and they want to keep some things on a completely separate tenant, right? But there's a
Yep.
lot of stuff that could be in either place. And we've seen some challenges with even with the like, B2B or theoretically authenticated with the same account into both, like being able to see both at the same time is not something that's happening seamlessly.
Yeah,
for us,
and
so.
I would probably think also there may be some data sharing capabilities that would be coming up, but it's really depending upon, is it in the purpose of like data transformation, like in our example, or is it I have some clean data and I simply want to share with another organization? For that later scenario, I'd be like, we should look into shortcuts from the lake house, just so we can kind of do that data sharing.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, love the question. Awesome. So just kind of doing this quick refresh here for us. Let's go through refresh history, kind of waiting to see that can be completed here. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for this informative demo session.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have a question related to the pricing of Fabric. So as you know, if you're building the architecture for any new company or startup, actually one of the most important parts is pricing and the budget for that. So comparing Fabric to the another tools, end-to-end tools, BI tools, actually in the market, is it the values is good or not? Is it cheap or expensive, and so on? So this is actually my question. I've made some research about it, but actually I don't have an exact answer.
Yeah. And I'm not one to give like an it depends type of response. We would just need a lot more details here. So whether it be like connecting with Tim or myself kind of after today, I do believe though, kind of with the announcement yesterday of kind of reserved instance pricing, the lowest SKU I think for the F2 started at about $173 a month for one of their data center regions. So I do believe that there's a lower entry point here for organizations that do want to get started, especially if you have like an E5 or a G5 agreement today, where you have like a Power BI Pro license included. That could just be a fantastic way for like small businesses or even kind of like small departments to get started within Fabric projects. If you are looking at some of the other capabilities like free viewer licensing for Power BI, those do start at like a P1 or F64 for some of that pricing, generally around like a $5,000 retail price. But there could be scenarios with discounts or other things that make it a little bit more affordable. But I would highly encourage you to kind of look at the free trials that exist and then seeing, does this meet the needs of my project? Am I only using like 15% of the capabilities that I actually need here in terms of like capacity units? If that's the case, look at smaller SKUs. There's just so many great entry points though that I do believe here with Fabric. And then Tim, thanks for helping out anyone else that kind of dropped in the chat. Cool. No, I love the question though, Mohammed. So out in our tables here, we wrote all of these different things from our data flow into our lake house. So again, like prepping data, loading it into like a data set. If I was doing desktop today, I've got this. Like, whew, this Fabric thing seems easy. What I can also do though is I can create shortcuts to data that maybe already exists. So I know that another team has already created this. I don't need to kind of worry about this, kind of building it myself. So I'll just connect out to my lakehouse. Again, these optimized tables that are ready for just analytics. I've got that large fact table over here now. I'm gonna go ahead and connect to this and create a shortcut. So I don't need to bring this over myself. Another team has already built it. Press close. My fact online sales. So instead of me waiting and waiting and waiting, just create the shortcut. There's my data. Just from another workspace, from another team that's already prepared it. I'm just starting to use this data to enrich my own analytics. Awesome. So creating your own tables, shortcutting from other groups, just sharing that data. What I want to do now is create that new semantic model, previously titled a data set. So if you start seeing that term, just know like creating a Power BI data set. So I'm going to click this now, new data set. I need my dim tables. I don't need these raw. I need my customer and I need that big old fact here at the very bottom. So press confirm. And this will take us into the web editing interface for creating a semantic model. Awesome. Hey, this looks like Power BI Desktop. This looks like the relationship builder. All right, I got this. So let me go ahead and kind of bring these down here. So I've got my date key to date key. I'm gonna go ahead and create that relationship. Just waiting for that to load. I know that the data is perfect. Contos is always perfect here. So I'll set that relationship, relational integrity, dim product to dim product key to my product key. Awesome. And then quick question here, just for those in the chat, how many people have started using kind of the web editing experience? And Gary, I see the hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi Alex, how you doing?
Doing well.
One of the things that would be really nice is if on this screen there was a button to auto detect relationships.
Ah, good feedback. And I know that people are always kind of back and forth on auto detection. Let us know in the chat if you're pro or anti. I like auto detection, Gary.
Oh, I do too, because I've created this. I created a data model out of I ingested data from data flows into a warehouse.
Yep.
And I brought in like 40 tables, and wow, I have to recreate my entire semantic model. It was a chore doing these one at a time.
Oh goodness.
So yeah, auto detect would be awesome. I'll feed that in.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I know all the the DAX and data modeling legends that are like, I want to build everything by hand, so I trust it. But I'm kind of the new wave, and I'm like, if it can do it, I'm not too worried about it myself. Awesome. So here we go. We've got a nice star schema. Again, we also have some bi-directional relationships here just between our DIM employees to stores. We have multiple employees that work at one store. All of this, again, should feel familiar if you were building a Power BI data set today. And then maybe just writing a little bit of DAX as well. So I can do a new measure and just do total sales. And then don't think that I'm looking for expertise here. So I'll do just some backline sales, just of my sales amount column. Cool. Writing a DAX measure, creating relationships, building all of this just on top of data that's in my lake. So here, if I was to hover above one of these tables, I can see that the storage mode says direct lake. So this is a direct lake model. I no longer need to worry about refreshing data into a data set at the time of the query execution. It's going to go out, query data that's directly against the lake. So really the only time I need to worry about refreshing data is just at that time of ingestion. So copying my data, transforming it, just reducing some of that time to insights just for your users. I can do more things over here on the data modeling kind of role, go through the different properties of your columns. I'm good for the moment here because I do believe we've got about 15 minutes remaining. Direct lake data set, you've been hearing about it. You're like, I don't know what to think about this. Hopefully after seeing this, you can say, hey, I got this. I can build a direct lake mode. Leslie, I see hand raised, go ahead.
Yeah, just curious if you've done or seen any testing on the cost of this route versus the traditional data flow that's refreshing regularly.
So I'd be curious on that. Maybe we can get a little bit more information here at the very end of the session, if that's all right.
Sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Leslie. Cool. So I built my model here, sales, semantic model. Oh my goodness, that's gonna be a tough word to type a lot. So I've got my sales semantic model now out here in my my workspace. Of course, I need to update these names too. I've got my lake house. I'm not too good at this whole report building thing, so I'm just gonna ask Power BI to do it for me. This is the original Copilot before there was a Copilot. I absolutely love the quick create experience. Just throw together some data for me on a report, evenly kind of distribute it here horizontally and vertically. Just tell me some insights. So give this just a quick moment.
No
Awesome.
questions, but I love this feature, Alex.
Oh,
I just love it.
I do too. I've been screaming it for years. I'm like, quick create everything. It's so much fun.
Exactly.
All of the different visuals laid out for me here. Maybe I want to kind of change this instead of being last of year. Maybe I can do it just against the date key. The report automatically updates again for me here. So I didn't have to worry about building it myself. I'm just doing some exploration, which I know is a new feature we just dropped too. So I need to start playing with that a little bit more. Building a data flow, Power Query, check. You have that talent. Building the semantic model with a direct lake mode, just doing relationship building, things you're doing in desktop, check, you've got that. Building a report on top of that direct lake mode for data that's sitting in your lake house that has been optimized in this kind of Fabric format here that can be used for any different engine or even engines that are outside of Microsoft Fabric. As Leslie had kind of asked about Databricks, can I start reading from these files? Absolutely. It's just on an open source file format. So a lot of different engines, a lot of different tools can kind of use the same underlying data. Here, I'm just gonna go into quick edit, do a quick count of our rows, customer key. Let's do a count of that. Yeah, so what is that? 20,848, just blink of an eye. I know one of my colleagues, Phil Seamark, he was doing 2 billion rows in less than 1.6 seconds. So I would ask how many people out there with your data sets, your semantic models today are getting less than 1.6 second response time with some of your measures. You're saying, well, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm not showing you my measures. You know, they're up in maybe 4 or 5 seconds. You know, maybe 7 or 10 in kind of the worst examples. Direct lake mode. Again, here in Microsoft Fabric, all of your existing skill sets just brought it up in here to the cloud. I didn't use any authoring from a desktop. So if I'm a Mac user, maybe I'm on a Linux machine, as long as I have access to a web browser, I can start building all this end to end today. Cool. I'm gonna go and discard this. The last thing I was so excited about, you know, traditionally when I talk about kind of building a solution, you know, doing my refreshes, I've got these daily and weekly, you know, every 30 minutes new data is coming in. I'd have to add this 48 different times. That would just feel like a never-ending process. And I'm saying absolutely not. I'm never doing that ever again. So let me go ahead and discard this. If you recall from our diagram, I talked about the pipeline. So here in Data Factory, I'm going to do a data pipeline. Call this my sales pipeline. Amazing. And then let me know in the chat if you've ever built a pipeline using like Azure Data Factory or even like a Synapse pipeline if you're using like Azure Synapse Analytics. I'm out here, blank canvas. I've got these watermark cards kind of letting me know where I can get started, adding a pipeline activity. Click on this, move and transform data, my data flow. So I'm going to click this now. If I was a little bit more prepared, I would have given this a better name than data flow 2, but there we go. I've selected it here from my workspace, from my data flow list. Call this my sales pipeline refresh. Also just giving a little bit of a meaningful name there. I also do a lot of things just within Microsoft Teams. So today, you know, I get like an email error saying this data set, this data flow didn't refresh. Maybe I have it for a team. Maybe I then do some logic and forward it on or do something. A little bit restricted though, in terms of what I can do, because I do a lot of things in Teams. So I'm going to use Teams instead here within my data flow. Configure this. I'll sign in real quick. My boss has said, don't ever send me an email. Always send me a message on Teams. I said, okay. Instead of wiring something up in Power Automate with the Power BI system generated messages, I'm just doing it direct. Here's my team loading my post. I'm going to post this into just our channel. Awesome. My Data Factory notifications. My channel, just our general channel. And then very similar to like a Power Automate. So something failed. Go check. Workspace goes this. And then I could say pipeline of this. So just enriching with some additional metadata, time of failure. I can then just go and use kind of some of these functions here. So whether it be like a string, maybe be like some logical. For mine, I actually looked at some date functions. So I just want to say at the time of the failure. So there we go. Something failed. Go check this workspace. Go check this pipeline. Here's when it failed. I can continue to add more and more here. Maybe I wanted to add some like HTML and really make it fancy, maybe adding some images, whatever it may be. So I've got that ready to go now. I want to actually have this where at any time that it fails. So failure notification. Here on my different options of my activity, I've got an on skip, on success, on fail, or even kind of just on completion. So whether success, fail, or maybe some other error occurred. On fail, just go and drag and drop this over to Teams. Awesome. And then maybe I also want to do some copying data just at scale, petabyte of information here. I can use like my copy assistant. More and more connectors here, whether it be like connecting to M365 data, or even doing like high-speed copy of SharePoint online list. You can come out here and select those options. I'm going to use this public holidays. So select next. Connecting to my data source. I've got my data preview grid. Awesome. Looks just like Power Query. Choosing my destination. Again, my lake house for storing data. Select my table. Give it a name. Load to a new table. On holidays table. And tables or files, I'm going to make sure it's optimized. And then press next. And then I can start that data transfer immediately. Cool. Holidays information. I want to have this be the first in my series here. So connect these two items. I've got my Teams notification. So especially as I continue to add more and more things, if I was still using like an imported semantic model over in Power BI, keep an eye out here. There should be an activity coming soon. We demonstrated at the Power Platform Conference, but you can continue to chain your activities together. So refresh my data flow, refresh my data set, semantic model, still getting used to it. Do this next thing, do this next thing, do this next thing. So very similar to like an authoring workflow, like in Power Automate, just all done through here of a single experience within Microsoft Fabric. Cool. The one thing I wanted to talk about was that schedule, because I said I'm never going back. So with the pipeline scheduler here, just the home schedule, scheduling my run frequency, it could be by the minute, hourly, daily, weekly, a lot more flexibility. So I want to do this by the minute. I want to do it every 30 minutes. So instead of configuring it 48 times, I just do it in one box. Press today. Yes, looks good. And then I'll set this for maybe kind of next year sometime. Cool. Oh, I'll select the next year. Whew. There we go. Press apply. I've now set up a scheduled refresh of my pipeline to go and execute all these activities. I can see down here as well within my outputs which activities are going and running. I can see both my data flow ran successfully and also my copy activity. If I was to click here, I can see the complete throughput of that activity. So how much data ingestion occurred, how many rows were read, how long did it take, just some additional monitoring and metrics here that I've just not been accustomed to in the past. Cool, so let me go and wrap up here. Close and discard, yes, get out of here. We built our lakehouse, we built our data flow, we built a semantic model over a direct lake mode, kind of for analytics. We also visualize some data, just all things we're doing within our current workflow. I want to jump back out into kind of that PowerPoint so we can take it home. Give me one moment here. Oh, amazing. And then let me step us back. There we go. So looking at an end-to-end analytics scenario, getting data, check. Using Power Query to ingest and transform our data with a data flow, check. Enriching our data by creating relationships between our different tables, maybe writing some DAX measures to create that new direct lake mode, check. business intelligence with just building a Power BI report on top of it. Oh my goodness. This Fabric thing, I think I can do it. And then of course that new thing that I've just not used before, this pipeline activity, just adding different cards onto a canvas. Again, I kind of equate it to like my experience with Power Automate, where I can just add different activities together and then kind of choose the control flow. So when this thing succeeds, move on to the next thing. If this thing fails, go ahead and do this activity. Maybe it's sending an email, maybe it's executing another pipeline, maybe it's doing some other thing, just being able to orchestrate and notify. Hopefully with watching this, you're like, oh my goodness, I could absolutely build a Fabric project today just from my existing Power BI skill set. Cool. So with that, where do you go next? Oh my goodness, try Fabric. They give a 60-day trial, kick the tires, have some fun, see what workload that you need. I love Mohammed's question earlier where he said, where do I start? How much do I need? Oh my goodness, start with the free. So try Microsoft Fabric here, that first link, 60 days, kind of use that capacity metrics app. How much capacity do you need? Hopefully at the very end, you've got a pretty good idea just in terms of your project, what are the demands, are you using 90% of it or are you barely using 20% of kind of that capacity within the trial? Join the community. I absolutely love that people are hanging out in communities like this, giving some time out of your day. It's just a great way to stay connected, to share things. Sharing is just how we all learn together. I'm still learning. I'm still overwhelmed, but I love hanging out with communities like this where I can say, oh, you learned that trick? Well, I'm going to add that to my toolkit. So like the default destinations, what it was like the light bulbs for the merging within our data flow, those are new things that you're going to start sharing with others. And that's purely because of community. And then, of course, here at the very bottom, I would love to see everyone in Vegas. So next March, we are doing our Microsoft Data and AI conference. I'll be there doing a workshop. Hopefully, I'll be doing a couple other sessions as well. They won't be as fast or as chaotic as today, maybe. I'll be able to slow down a little bit, but I'm just so excited to share with Fabric. Tim, with that, I'm going to pass over to you. If there's any other closing items, anything that popped up in the chat, maybe we want to kind of expand upon.
I think the chat was good. We had some earlier questions about a scorecard, but it was from George, who had not been to Power BI in a little while. And then I'm going to do a real quick link for the Microsoft Fabric or the Microsoft Data and AI conference. Let me know if this is the right one. It's for March. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry, I didn't put the right link in. I put the YouTube link in because I was going really fast. Alex, we want to thank you. We had great turnout today. Great way to wrap up 2023. Thank you, Leslie and the team from Power BI DC. You guys are awesome. Leslie, Lenore, thank you so much. And Rachel, thanks for coming out. And guys, have a good weekend. Have a good Thanksgiving. And we'll see you in 2024.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to stop recording.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.